Alright, so we're out here in the garage today doing some more upgrades and things to the Murray off-road lawnmower. Today I thought it'd be a good time to do the rear tires. You can see I've already got one mounted there to the wheel, and the other one, you can see a comparison is the size difference between the two wheels. Here's a couple different views so you can really see what I was talking about earlier about the Carlisle tires. Even though they're marked the same size as other manufacturers, are actually a little bit smaller, or they tend to be on the smaller side anyways. I was originally going to make a relatively detailed video on changing the tires on my rims, but as you can see, my rear wheels are actually split rim, and that is because these are actually ATV rims, or they are actually from the front of a four-wheeler, and I adapted them to the back of my Murray off-road lawnmower by actually using the old spindles and welding them to the axle shafts. But without getting super detailed in the process of me changing my tires on my split rims, you can see I just basically put a little stand in the middle of my garage, and I have to actually mount the tube and tire at the same time to the first half and push down as hard as I can on the first half and bolt the two halves together. And this is really tricky because I've actually ruined a couple of inner tubes doing this before, because if you get the inner tube pinched between the two halves and bolted together, you've created a leak. So it's really frustrating and really difficult to get this right. So I usually take my time. It usually takes me about 20 minutes to do this, which is why I'm not going to record the whole process. But once I get it all done, we'll have to set the bead, and that can sometimes be a frustrating process as well. And the other thing I like to know is when you're filling a tire with an inner tube in it, if you don't use baby powder in the inner tube, which I didn't because we don't have any, it's best to leave the valve stem core removed and then fill the tire over and over again and allow the air to deflate. And doing this allows the tube to reform itself inside the tire, because you surely put some wrinkles in it when you stuffed it inside there just like I did. After you feel like you've got the tube in there all said and done, it's not a bad idea to go ahead and put the valve stem core back in and try to fill the tire up to set the beads. Again, you might want to put a lot more lubricant inside each side of the beads so it helps them slide across the rim a lot easier. And voila, we have both tires mounted. Now, one thing I should have mentioned before but forgot to, but I'll say it anyways, is if you're mounting directional tires, make sure you get the second directional facing the right direction. The first one probably doesn't matter, but when you go to mount the second one, double check, triple check, quadruple check, whatever you're going to do, make sure the tread is facing the right direction. I managed not to screw that up with this set, thank God, I remembered to look, but I have done that in the past, and it really sucks, especially if you get the bead set. So double check your tire directions. So there they are mounted on the back of the Murray. They definitely seem bigger to me. You can also see a fairly good difference between depth of tread. Not tremendous, but enough to be noteworthy. And there's not a whole lot of space between the bumper and the tire. It's not like it was before with the Trail Wolves on there. So originally I was going to go out and do a test drive video for you guys and try out these new tires, but it's unfortunately like 30 degrees and raining and sleeting at the moment, and I don't feel like going out there and freezing my ass off. So instead of doing that, I'm going to show you guys a couple of changes that I've made to the ignition and electrical systems on both these tractors. We'll start with the Sears. Now, the last time you saw the Sears was in the winch install video, and you watched me install these two upper switches, but what you didn't see me do was install these lights, and these lights are basically indicator lights to make sure that you know that things are working as they should. The first green light over here on the left is actually just an ignition light, and this just lets you know that you've basically got power on to all your systems. So when you turn the key on, you're going to get a green light letting you know that you're good to go, your charging system is activated when the engine's running, so the voltage regulator should be working and everything. That was basically a strategic placement of a wire, so if I know that that wire is getting power, then the entire system is getting power. And lets you know also that the key is on, since the engine will run with the key in the off position, however it will not charge the battery. So that doesn't really do you much good, especially with the high amp draw of this winch. So I decided to install the light as a means to let me know that the key was on while I'm driving. So the red light right here is actually an indicator light for the glow plug. That lets you know that the glow plug is actually working and functioning as it should. The glow plug will not actually work with the key in the off position. You have to flip the key on. You can see my indicator light for the key, and now the glow plug will actually function as it should. As you can see, the electrical system is no slouch. I can't remember offhand how much the diesel engine charges, but it was significantly more than their standard Briggs & Stratton engine, and I was actually quite surprised. It came with a voltage regulator and everything. But the battery itself is 420 cold cranking amps, which is more than enough power to power everything on here all at once. You can see I've got a series of two relays here on the right. This one is the glow plug relay. This one is the ignition relay. This relay controls the cigarette lighter and all the other key switch activated accessories. I essentially had to build my own wiring harness with spare wires, zip ties, and heat shrink tubing. And most likely I'm probably the only one that knows how everything works. But that's alright, because no one else ever works on my tractor. Now even the Murray has undergone some electrical changes here. Not quite as refined as the Sears, but equally as complicated. You may remember before in my past video I just had a toggle switch and push button ignition. That has actually since been replaced with an actual key switch in place of the toggle switch. The push button still activates the starter, but as you can see it will not do so without the key in the on position. Something else to note is that this key is an actual key, not a regular lawnmower key like that. However, you will notice down below that there is a lawnmower key, and we'll get to that in just a second. Up here, I've rewired everything. This was originally an on-off switch intended for the racing lawnmower, but I could not use it because it makes its connection when the circuit is turned to the on position, which is the opposite of what you'd want when you want to use it as a kill switch. So, in this Murray, I've now got a series of relays wired up, single pole double throws and single pole single throws, and the coil will now ground when the key is in the off position. The key must be in the on position for the headlights to work, and it also must be in the on position for the starter to work. Now since this whole ignition system runs off of relays and things like that, there's a major flaw in the whole thing. All of a sudden my pull start ignition will no longer start the tractor. Why, you might ask? Well, it's pretty simple. For this tractor to turn on, you have to energize the starting circuit. And what I mean by that is when you flip that key into the on position, all kinds of relays turn on. And if those relays don't turn on, the kill switch doesn't actually turn off. So if I was stranded in the woods and had no battery power or had ruined my electrical system for some reason, I theoretically could not start this tractor. So what I did was I added this little key switch. You can see there's two keys on this key ring right here. And if you take the key out of the top ignition and put it in the bottom ignition, that secondary key switch deactivates the ground coil. And what this basically does is bypasses my whole electronic ignition system, so you can essentially run this thing without a battery and then you are able to pull start it. Now to kill the tractor, you essentially just turn the key off, just like you would any normal key switch. So the advantage to having the dual keys is basically nobody can start this tractor in any way, shape, or form without at least one key. Now obviously the bottom key you could essentially use a screwdriver to turn the key, but you'd have to be pretty motivated because then you'd have to turn that little key, you'd have to run the choke and all those things in the gas pedal. It's not as easy as running the electric start when you're sitting in the driver's position. And you have to find the pull start, wrap it around the motor, and pull start the motor. So it's not as easy or convenient as if you could just walk up to the tractor and push the button. Also, the other neat feature is when you activate the secondary fail-safe key, if you will not activate any of the electronics on the tractor. You will still, however, be able to charge the battery, so that circuit still works if there is a battery to be charged. However, you cannot hit the start button, you cannot turn on the headlights, none of those things will work unless the main key ignition is on. So there you go, that's going to be the end of this update. Let me know what you guys think about the tires. I think it's hard to say that they don't look better than the old tires. They're much bigger, they're much knobbier. I know a lot of people are giving me crap saying that these are in fact front tires for an ATV. Yes, they are, but for the size that I'm running, I can only run that size. And my selection is very limited, and like I said before, I choose not to change my size. It's just the way I am, it's just the way the tractor is going to be. So hopefully these tires all work out. If not, then you know, I can go back to the Trail Wolves or whatever. I still have those. But there you go. That's the end of this update. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Drop me a like if you like what we've done here. Drop me a dislike if you think what I've done is really stupid. Either way, let me know, and I will see you in the next update or romp.